Hey YouTube, it's Fire23. I wanted to do a quick little upload. There's probably going to be a couple uploads right in succession tonight. I wanted to talk about the TV show Intervention, and I want to make a couple first notes. Notes before I begin. I am not trying to, in any way, demean the problems that these families, and more specifically these users or addicts, have. I am not trying to demean that in what I'm about to say, because they are actually portraying real problems, and I don't want to make it I don't want to make it about their problems. My issue that I want to talk about is Intervention, the television show Intervention, which is, without a doubt, the most depressing program I think I have ever seen in my life. They spend a good half an hour in this program showing how terrible their lives are because of this addict, show these people actually going to get drugs, using drugs, or whatever addiction they may have, being terrible people, and showing the family's emotion and how they feel about it. They then have at the end like an intervention where they like read letters like, "You make me feel like this." I swear anyone who's watched an after-school special in the 80s knows this scene, or they've seen something like this in some other aspect of television. Sometimes just making fun of those whole sequences. And then they go off and get help. And I can't speak for every single segment of every single program, but because I've only seen, admittedly I've only seen one. But I feel like I can pretty much figure out what this show's format is. I'm assuming that all the people who do this eventually do actually go to some form of rehab. I mean, that would be such a depressing episode to view, to see just this terrible person who's just ruining their family's life and then just decides not to go off and get help. It is incredibly depressing. I have no idea what the audience is for this kind of show, what I'm supposed to feel while watching this show. I'm floored. I mean, the one episode I watched, it was a gentleman who had anger management, who was now substance using, and he'd been having anger management his entire life, like raging and smashing and destroying things. And there's another guy who was becoming an actor, and then he started using and stuff after really having some tough times. And I mean, you watch all these stories and hearing it, I'm like, this is so depressing. Really? I mean, they spend like half an hour to 40 minutes in the show just showing that and explaining it and seeing how the family reacts to it and all these bad situations that they're in. This is the most depressing television show I have ever seen. And if I was a network exec, I would not greenlight this show, because I have no idea what the redeeming value of this is. I mean, if I'm understanding it correctly, it almost falls into the same kind of format as Nanny 911. And I've never talked about any of the nanny shows. I have a lot of appreciation for Super Nanny. I do not like Nanny 911 because it almost seems like they show all the problems in the family, they help out with the kids, and then they point to like the one parent figure who's causing all the problems. And then it gets miraculously fixed. And I know there has to be a disclaimer on the show. I didn't specifically see it, but there must be a disclaimer somewhere in the show saying, these are not quick fix solutions. These are, treatments that take place over many years, da-da-da-da-da. But it's like, the show wants to say, we're going to have this intervention, send them off, and then everything is hunky-dory again. And it's like, I know they probably don't show it, but I get the feeling like that's probably how it's portrayed. It doesn't like say, oh, like our life is freaking perfect now. But it just kind of shows like, oh, he's made this real progress. And drug addiction rehab takes years. I mean, that is not something you can do overnight. It literally takes years to rebuild yourself from such a down. I have no experience with that, but I mean, I happen to have a friend who's actually training to become a drug therapist and stuff, and I know that's part of it. I'm sorry, I just had to do this blog upload because I felt so... I felt offended as a viewer of this program saying, wow, I truly find this material offensive. I find Jerry Springer less offensive than this material. That I have to watch this incredibly depressing person's life and how terrible they've gotten, and then to act as if like, oh, but we're going to have an intervention and that's just going to solve everything. And I just, at that moment, I mean, I know that's probably not what's happening, but it's just how it is being presented. I think it is just such a disgrace to any kind of real solution to that kind of problem. To dwell on it for an emotional response from the audience, I'm sorry, it is the most disgusting thing I have ever seen. And that's saying something for me. Okay, thank you very much for hearing my rant. If you got something to comment below, please keep it civil. Take care.